Hey, my name is Elijah Zeck, and I am Colin DeHaan's, aka Cowboy Colin's videographer. You haven't seen me that much because I am usually behind the camera, not in front of the camera like we are today. But today I just wanted to film an intro for today's video. It's essentially an interview with Colin DeHaan that was filmed today, and it goes in depth about why he's quitting so many things. He is quitting to focus on Gutter Launch. He's put a lot of time and effort in real estate and other companies that he has started. We are also going to be talking about how he got started in the gutter world and how that has come to be and how everything has kind of just unraveled. But yeah, without further ado, here is Colin and me. So yeah, tell me what slowed you down. What's been slowing you down?
So the thing that slowed me down the most in my business is not focusing on one thing. So what I ended up doing was I started my business just as gutter only. Then I added garage doors. Then I added siding. Then I added roofing and windows. And I'm pretty sure there was something else in there, right? I just kept adding different things because my brain thought, oh, I just need to add more services to make more money. And what it did is it slowed me down because I wasn't able to focus on building one business. I was trying to build 6 different businesses, all that were under the guise of one business. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So you're saying to not diversify your what you can provide to your clients, get really good at one thing.
Exactly. Get super hyper focused on one thing. That's why I'm selling off all my real estate. For me, with my gutter business and going nationwide, it made a ton of sense for me to add Gutter Launch, right? I've already built that program, I've already built that program and built all of that, right? It's ready to package up and give to the world. But that also is a growth opportunity for me because as I've been very public with, right, my ulterior motive in that is you buy Gutter Launch, you build your business to look just like mine, and then I get to buy it from you when you're done with it, right? It all funnels towards the one thing, right? So I didn't really learn that. I've always heard stay in your lane, stay focused on one thing, all that, but I never really applied it until just recently. Like it never really made a ton of sense to me. And here I am now, super hyper focused on it.
Yeah, and how's it going? Or how was it going versus like when you had multiple things going for yourself? Like when you have your $1 million real estate portfolio, you have other things that are going on. You had your garage door, you said you had your windows. Once you get rid of all that stuff, or like how much stuff did you have at the beginning of Gutter Launch versus how much stuff do you have now with Gutter Launch?
Yeah, I still have a lot of stuff, but what I changed was the operator of my stuff, right? So at the beginning of Gutter Launch, when I first launched Gutter Launch, I had siding, windows, roofing, gutter, and then all my real estate. And then as I'm launching Gutter Launch, it was down to just roofing and seamless gutter. I also did partner, but silent partner on a pole barn business, right? So I'm not involved in the day-to-day. I am more or less a mentor to the operator of it, right? He has majority equity, all that good stuff. I am just a silent partner who's helping him build that business on the back end, right? Mentoring him through that, rather than having to be the operator and be the brains of the thing.
So when was there a noticeable difference between like when you started to shed things off versus when you did you increase profits in total or did you?
What increased was my love for what I do. So when I started getting rid of all the real estate, I still have some of it, right? It's not all gone yet. But when I started getting rid of that, it was such a burden off of me that I don't have to think about this anymore. I don't have to do this. I don't have to, it was always just kind of looming over me. Like, hey, you still got to handle this part, right? You still got to get a hold of this utility company. You still got to get a hold of this electrician. You still got to do this. Like, all these things were just looming over my head. Even though they weren't pressing at the moment, they were still just consuming my thought space and making me work less diligently on the things that I'm working on.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Your attention's being pulled in multiple different directions.
Exactly, right.
What made you stick with gutter and roofing over the other businesses?
It's a really good question.
Were they like, do they make you the most money? Is it like, is that what you just chased, or is it like what was working at the time? Is that what you saw had like the most ambitious future?
I chose roofing and gutter. Because
They go well together.
well, they go well together, yes, but B, I've got the most experience in gutter. I have the most to offer other people with seamless gutter, and that business is the most automated of all my other businesses. Right?
Yeah.
So I've got more of the systems and kinks worked out in that business than any of the other ones.
You started with gutter. How did you start with gutter?
Yeah, so I got started in gutter because I was selling gutter supplies to gutter companies, and we'd have people call and say, "Hey, who do you recommend?" And I'd give them 3 or 4 names, and then a week later I'd get a call back like, "Hey, nobody showed up," or they showed up and they were high as a kite, or they showed up and then I never heard from them again, right? And I was like, "Holy crap! If I just show up and do what I say I'm going to do, I'll double my income right now." And that's exactly what I did. When I got started in that, I had zero money. I shouldn't say zero. I had $700 or so in my bank account. My wife was a stay-at-home mom with our 6-month-old son. We had a home that we had only owned for 1 year, and I went all in on it. Right? I just said, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." Thankfully we had pretty good credit, so my wife and I both opened up a handful of 0% interest credit cards with anywhere from a $1,500 to $5,000 limit on it, right? And I put everything to launch the business on that. All of our company shirts, all of my tools, everything that I needed to buy. I even was able to talk a local contractor into letting me buy his box truck by paying down his bill at one of the local supply houses so I could pay it with a credit card, right? So that was really cool. The only liquid cash I had to come up with was $2,600 for my gutter machine. And I went to, actually, my mom and dad. They were the first in line of like 6 other people I was going to ask, and said, "Hey, can I borrow $2,600? I don't know when I'll be able to pay it back, but my goal is within 3 months. And here's what I'm going to do." And my dad gave me the $2,600 reluctantly. I think my mom had a little more to do with that. And when he handed it to me, he said, "I don't expect you to ever be able to pay this back." It wasn't "I don't expect you to pay this back," because I'm giving you this gift. It was, "I think this business is one of the worst ideas you've ever had. And I don't think you're ever going to be able to make money doing it."
Sure to prove him wrong.
That's right. Exactly. Fast forward a few years and he's like, "Hey, you think I could come work for you?" And that's a whole different story. But when I was launching that business, that's actually something I'd love to talk about, because it's something I think a lot of people run into. When I was launching that business, my father-in-law had been a carpenter for 30 years at that point, right? My dad had never owned a business. Well, he did own a business once for like 2 years, and it failed miserably. It was Dehan Detailing. We detailed cars. I was 10 years old helping him detail cars, and it was annoying, but we did it, right? But it failed. So all the people that I was talking to about this, with the exception of like 2, my boss at my supply house that I was working at, and one other friend, with the exception of those 2 people, everybody else was telling me there's no way. Like, you can't make money just doing gutter. Like, there's not enough gutter jobs to go around. You can't do that. And I actually started to believe that, right? Like, I literally thought, well, okay, but if I can just do like 3 jobs a week, I'll be okay.
Because you're right now, you're selling gutter for $16.50 a foot?
Yeah.
Did you sell $16.50 a foot back then, or what did you sell for back then?
No, back when I started in 2016, I went out and I bought business. I was selling for $5 a foot. By the end of that first year, I had raised my prices to $6 a foot. 5-inch regular K-style gutter up here. I had a 27-year-old gutter machine that owed me nothing. Right? But yeah, that was it, man. I was selling it for $5 a foot. I went out and I bought business. I mean, there was contractors I called and I was like, "Look, I want to do your gutter, but I'm not ready to tackle those jobs for you yet. I want to make sure that I'm the best in the business before I work on these $1 million homes that you build." And they were like, "That means a lot to me, Colin. You let me know when you're ready." Right? And when I let them know, bam, I was their guy. right?
Yeah.
No, it only took me like 5-6 months to really like feel super duper comfortable. I didn't have a gutter launch program, right? I was fully self-taught. My very first gutter job took me, it was a 32-foot piece of gutter. David G, if you're listening to this, thank you for that. This dude just threw me a bone, right? Like, here, I'll be your first gutter customer. Charged him like $260 or something like that for a 32-foot piece of gutter, 32 feet of cover, and one downspout. It took me and one of my buddies 8.5 hours to install that. All right? 8.5 hours to do this thing. We went there one day and then went back the next day. That's how long it took us. Today, I'd be pissed if it took my guys more than 30 minutes to do that job, right? Like, that's how little I knew. Right? My very first gutter I installed was a 7-foot piece of gutter over my door, and I left it. It's still on that house to this day. I don't live there anymore, but I drive by and I can see it, and I can see how ass backwards some of this stuff is, right? I was learning. I was self-taught, and then my next job went a little bit faster, and then the next one went faster, and then I hired a dude who had some gutter experience to help on a big job, and I was like, oh, he's doing it this way, he does this, like, okay, that makes sense, right? And so then I started a Facebook group for gutter installers because there wasn't one out there, and I just started asking questions to people, right? Seeing guys who'd been in it for as long, finding guys who've been in it for a really long time, and be like, hey, how do you do this? What do you do in this situation? And just was completely self-taught, and that's how I built everything that I have.
I have multiple things to ask and to say, but the Facebook group, let's talk about that. You started a Facebook group about gutter installers when you knew nothing about gutter installers.
Yes. Yeah. I started a Facebook group for gutter installers. In the first year, I think we got up to like 300 people.
Yeah.
Fast forward today, and it's like 12,000.
You probably, it's like is it the most?
It is the largest gutter group on Facebook, yeah. I was the first gutter group, period, on Facebook.
And you started this when?
That would have been 2016 or 2017.
Okay, so like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I have done like zero promoting of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't tried to funnel people to it or anything. It's just
All
called
organic.
Gutter Installers. And so yeah, I started a Gutter Installers page with really zero gutter experience. I think I'd started it when I was like almost a year in, right? So it would have been like winter of 16/17.
And you said, it's kind of interesting that like looking at like the big picture, you started off with one thing.
Right.
And then you got all these other things. It seems like you got distracted from that initial one thing.
I did.
When you started these other things, did you think that, oh, this is a great idea? Like I'm gonna
for sure.
And like I'm just gonna upsell to my clients.
Right.
Or were you more of just like, I'm gonna get more clients, more like broad clients? And was it you who was like the main installer or like the main guy for all of these side businesses?
Yeah. So I didn't launch another one. My next business was garage doors.
Yeah.
All right. And I had a great gutter installer, a great gutter tech, who had actually come to me and wanted to launch a garage door business. And I was like, I've always said garage doors would crush it in this area. There's nobody that does it really, really well. And when I started my gutter business, it was either garage doors or gutter. All right. So I partnered with him on a new business, and this was a life lesson, right? We had a handshake deal, nothing in writing, right? Like we had a formal LLC that we owned 50/50, all that good stuff, but there was no like real operating agreement. There was no job duties. There was none of that stuff. And after 6 months, he was like, I'm doing all the work. And went out on it, stole everything, literally cleared out the bank account, took all the inventory, and just started using it for his own work. Yeah, that was a crappy situation. Learned a lesson though, right? So, but he was out of business in a year, right? And countless people called me up like, hey, you still have any contact with this guy? He took my deposit and he ran, or whatever. Or he showed up, half installed the garage door and then disappeared, right? Yeah, it's a bummer. It is what it is.
What
right?
You said you learned a lesson. What was that?
My lesson was I don't do any handshake agreements anymore. Everything that we do is in writing. What we're doing, what each person's job duty is in writing. And then there's very, very clear buyout or cease to exist clauses, right? So there's that. There's also My big lesson in that one was, how do I want to phrase this?
The big lesson in the garage door.
Yeah, the big lesson in the garage door business was just because somebody has an idea does not mean they're a good operating partner. It takes a lot more than an idea to actually implement and do the things the right way. All right, like that guy said he was doing all the work. He was literally the install technician. I handled all the back end, all the ordering, all the bills, all the sales, all of it. All he had to do was show up when I told him to show up and install the thing. Right? That was his job, and he got 50% of the company.
Do you know, did you like keep track of him after he dumped you on the side of the road? Like, did he continue to do well?
He did it for 1 year.
He did it for one
and
more
then
year.
went out of business.
Okay. How long ago was that? That was before your initial gutter business,
That
right?
launched. That was
Oh no, that was your
was-
first side business.
He was a gutter technician for me in all of 2017. We launched that in 2018 then.
Okay. And then what about your other businesses? You had
So
siding.
then, so after that debacle, I was already kind of becoming known as the garage door guy. So I added garage doors to my business.
Yeah.
And I was like on the gutter side, that was working pretty good at that point. I didn't need to be heavily involved in like installing or anything like that. I was more or less like mentoring my sales guy and like helping the install techs if they ran into an issue, right? So I brought garage doors in, and I thought I could scale garage doors really, really quickly. And that proved to be very, very difficult. So we did garage doors for about 2 years before I just sold that division to my lead tech and just said, here, buy this for the van price and all the inventory I have, just buy this and off you go, right? You're going to make $250,000 if you just do exactly what you've been doing, and it'll be all yours. And that was that.
So essentially just handed the business
just
off.
handed it all off to him.
Yeah.
Like literally pay off my vehicle loan and give me like $5,000 for this $12,000 of inventory that we have or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Here you go. So he got an auto loan for that van, paid me in full, and off he went.
Was he happy about it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he made a bunch of money. So, so did that, and then shortly after that, right? Actually, as that deal was happening and selling that off to him, I added siding.
Did you not learn from your...
No, so I added siding because at that point I had learned. So I thought, I'd learned how to be a businessman.
Yeah.
All right. So, and I will say I did siding pretty well. Like siding, I never installed a piece of siding for my own business. Right. I was able to hire people right off the rip who, one guy with siding experience and then 2 guys to train underneath him. And that worked out really, really well. We did siding, actually, like our product was excellent. How we sold was excellent. Everything worked really, really well. It just wasn't a huge moneymaker for us,
Okay.
right? I couldn't crack the code on installing fast enough to make enough money, but still having the quality, right? We were slow and really high quality. We were really, really expensive still. I mean, there's guys that would do siding for 1/3 of our price, right? But we still, like, when I finally like just broke the numbers down, I was like, we're making $400 a day doing the siding. And it's the longest sales process. It's the longest install process. And it takes up the most amount of time for everybody involved, right? So
Right.
it just didn't make sense for us to continue doing that.
Oh, great. So you said being a businessman, you learned how to be a businessman in your siding business.
Yeah, so I learned how to be a businessman when I launched a siding business. So I never touched a truck, right? I taught somebody how to sell siding almost immediately, and then I taught somebody how to project manage almost immediately, right? So I pretty much just like washed my hands of the siding division almost immediately, like within 3 months, right? It was working. I had a project manager, I had a sales guy, and everything was working like it was supposed to, right? We had all the systems in place, and everything worked. It just didn't make enough money, right? So I learned how to be a businessman there. And with siding, just naturally comes windows, right? If people are going to put all new siding on their house, they're like, well, we might as well put new windows in too.
Yeah.
So that I actually never brought in-house. I just had a subcontractor who was really, really good. So that was really easy. We just sold windows and he installed them, right? So we did that. Ironically now, I mentor him in his business. We no longer do the windows. So I've taught him how to sell windows and how to do the whole customer nurture sequence and all that fun stuff, right? And he's crushing. I mean, that's an
So
awesome
he's still doing windows?
He still does windows. He does very, very well. He's installing windows at my house right now.
Is he really?
Not this moment, but yes.
I would hope not. It'd be
Right.
hard to see.
Right.
So what slowed you down the most was a bunch, like you were just taking on a bunch of different, like at what time did you have the most happening for you? Or like
At
most
one time,
happening?
at our peak, we had gutters, garage doors, siding, windows, and that was it. We hadn't added roofing yet.
And then do you notice a difference between like quality, I mean obviously you notice a difference between quality of life. You're not balancing, you're not juggling
Right.
4 or 5 different things. You're balancing gutters and roofs now, and you're subcontracting roofing out, right?
Yep.
So you only have those 2 things. Do you notice, speaking money wise, like is there more of a profit since you only have those 2 things?
For sure.
Or is it kind of just like,
Yeah.
does it even out?
Yeah, it was actually really nerve-wracking when we quit doing siding because that was like $1 million a year in revenue or something like that. So when we quit doing siding, my management team was like, Colin, that's a lot of money that we're just giving up, right? We still have the same amount of overhead. We still have all the stuff. We're keeping all those technicians, right? And I was like, yeah, we are. We're going to keep all those techs and we'll put them into different positions in the company. I'm not going to just fire people. And so what happened though was we were at that time when we quit doing siding, we were doing roofing, gutters, siding, and windows. So we quit doing windows and siding and it was just roofing and gutter. And what happened was marketing became much easier, right? We only had to market 2 things. So all of our marketing only had to have stuff about gutter and stuff about roofing on it. That was it, right? So we could optimize our marketing. We looked like more of an expert in those 2 things rather than being a jack of all trades, right? So we had that, but then also our team was able to focus. Our sales reps, gutter and roofing only, right? When you have to know siding and windows as well, it gets really tricky, right? If I show up to quote you, Elijah, and I have to figure out, or if I show up to quote you and I have to know everything about gutters, everything about roofing, everything about siding, everything about windows, that's a crap ton to know as a sales rep, right?
Yeah.
How long does that take somebody to be an efficient sales rep? We're talking months to like get their feet wet. Ugh.
Did you have any of those salesmen that were gutters, roofing, siding?
Yeah, we had a couple of them that could do the full gamut of it. And then I tried like, okay, you're siding only, estimator. Then I tried like, you're siding and windows only. You're roofing and gutter only. And that was just a cluster F from the get-go. That didn't work out very, very well at all because customers want everything, right? So we show up, I don't know how to quote roof and gutter. Well,
So
you're
just
here
be
to
like
quote my
this
siding.
daisy chain of...
Exactly. So it was just a
salesmen.
mess and it didn't make us look professional at all. So when I closed down the siding division, that was siding and windows, that was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was freaking fantastic. But we became hyper-focused on everything roofing and gutter. So both had systems already in place, but they got super optimized because now they had the entire company's focus on them. Our CRM was able to get more dialed in because we didn't have to try and make it work for windows and siding. It just was a focus on roofing and gutter. My employees started to feel like they actually knew what they were doing versus like, okay, I don't really know how to do the siding thing, right? There was just a lot more confidence in the building, right? People walked around with their heads held a little bit higher and things just felt like they were moving in the right direction. And our employee retention has actually increased dramatically since niching down, right? Rather than adding new niches, niching down. allowed our employees to be more comfortable and confident in what they're doing, and not feel like, what the heck am I doing every day, right?
Yeah.
As you and I both have probably experienced in our past work lives, right? When you show up and don't know what you're doing, it makes for a pretty crappy work day.
Yeah.
But if you know what you're doing every day, life gets a little bit easier. It becomes more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right?
If you have a general sense of what you're doing,
Exactly.
it's nice. Even if there are days where you don't know what you're doing, if like 4 out of the 5 days out of the week you know what you're doing, it becomes a lot easier. If you just have like a normal Tuesday,
Right.
you show up, you're like, what are we doing today?
Yep.
It's and nobody knows. Nobody in the office can answer that. It's
Exactly.
a little. It's not a good time to
right.
be the boss or to be the employee.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and then you think about from the boss's perspective. Crap, I got these guys coming in. I don't have work for them right now.
Yeah.
I don't have this. I got to scramble to do this. Right? Like, I remember those days where I'm like, crap. There's no gutter jobs scheduled for today. No. Okay, and so you just start calling people at 8 o'clock in the morning, like, hey, can we do your gutter today? Hey, can we do your gutter today? Right? And all your sold customers like, no, not today. Sorry, I'm working, or I've got this happening at my house, or whatever. Right? They've all got reasons. So like, crap, I don't have jobs. All right, let's call all the estimates. Hey, Mrs. Customer, I can give you 20% off if I can come do it today. Had an opening in my schedule. Customer pushed me off. Like, I can give you a discount. Mm-hmm. So now you're taking a discount, right? You're taking less money to keep you guys working. And before you know it, now it's 9:30 in the morning. You've paid guys for an hour and a half to sit out and sweep the shop or whatever. And your first hour and a half of the day has been on the phone, just trying to book jobs, right? And it's frustrating, right? How much more productive could that hour and a half been? I could have been here shooting videos with you.
Yeah.
So
Could we do something actually productive?
Right. Exactly.
Were those all your ideas, or like to add on to it, or what other people like? Oh, this is a good idea to like add on to.
That was most of my ideas.
Most of my ideas.
It was me seeing a need in the community. Like, I believe this lie that I had to solve all of my community's problems. So I started the gutter business because there was no reputable gutter company, right? Then I launched a garage door division because we had to call companies out of Grand Rapids an hour and a half away to come service our garage doors here, right? And then I launched a siding because there's nobody doing siding on Google in my area, right? You cannot find anybody doing siding. Same thing with windows. There's one window company in town, and they're known as like the most ridiculously expensive company in town, blah, 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 right? Like, I was like, oh, I'll be taking candy from a baby, right? We launched roofing. Roofing was a little more competitive, right? There's roofers everywhere, but we launched roofing because it made sense, right? And at that point, we were superior exteriors, and so we had to do everything exteriors, right?
Yeah.
So,
Surprised you didn't do decking.
yeah, decks is buco bucks, but decks is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right. That now you're talking framing and all that good stuff, and we don't do any of that.
Do you have to have a foundation for decks?
Yep. Yeah, with decks, you're setting posts in the ground, and there's certain ways to do that. And
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a whole nother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whole different gamut.
It's not you just buy the supply and you can just apply or tack it on to the house. You recently discovered mentors, right? Or like business mentors, relationship mentors.
Like 5 years ago.
I was like 5 years ago. Dude, was there a mentor that really spoke into you like, hey, you're doing too many things?
Yeah.
Who was that? And what did they say?
Yeah, so that actually just happened this year.
Oh.
So for the first time ever, it hit me. It's probably been said to me in the past, but Josh Latimer this year was like, Colin, I don't know why you're focusing on anything other than gutter launch right now. This is a $100 million a year thing, and everything else you have right now is not even remotely close to that. You need to get rid of every other distraction in your life. So when Josh told me you need to be focused on this and this only, I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to do an analysis of what I'm spending my time on. And I discovered that it was real estate. My real estate was taking up all my time because, well, I had like what most would consider a big portfolio. It wasn't big enough to scale it, right? So it was all me, and that ended up taking up all of my time. And so I just called my realtor up and said, hey, I'm selling all my properties. Get rid of them all. Everything but my house and my commercial property that I occupy. Sell it all.
Plus, real estate's like a full-time job too.
It is.
It's not side gig that you can really
That's
mangle.
it. Yeah, people think like, oh, I can just buy all these houses and rent them out, and it's super easy. No, like tenants suck. Tenants suck, and they will break your stuff. And they will call you, hey, this sink isn't working. Hey, this door isn't shutting all the way. And there's just gonna be stupid things that you constantly have to be taken care of, and that is the biggest waste of your time in the entrepreneur world. How much more money could you be making right now doing what you do really, really well? What allowed you to buy that second home, right? That you could rent out. If you were focused, like the average entrepreneur is making 100, 200 bucks an hour, right? So why on earth are you showing up to fix a door at a house or to fix a leaky faucet? No, that's not what you do. But okay, so now I gotta go pay a plumber to fix that leaky faucet. That's 400 bucks, right? Shoot, that's my 2 months of profit off of that property, right? That stings a little bit, right? So I understand why they show up and do it, because they don't value their time. And I've been there, I've done that. But once I got hyper focused on valuing my time, it was like, okay, let's just sell everything. Let's go all in on what works, what's made me my money, and that's that.
Do you think you'll ever go back to real estate? Once you've ran the course of gutter launch, or do you think gutter launch will ever have like an end to the course?
I don't know that answer. I have a master plan, right? So I own my 40 acres right now, and there's another 160 or 180 around me that I really want to buy. That I really want to buy. There's 400 around me that I would love to buy, but the 180 is like something it's a goal for me, right? And so I would own that type of real estate, and that has multiple houses on it that I would probably rent out, but I could monitor that a little bit better. And the goal is to own all that land so I can build a family compound on it, right?
Yeah.
And put my mom in a house there, put my sisters and their families in a house, and just kind of build it out like that.
Right on.
So, as I continue to make more money, I'm going to have to dump money into real estate, right? Like it's the best way to avoid paying taxes, right? But there are different ways that I can do that. I can be a majority partner. Am I going to be the operator of it? No, but I could be a majority partner on a 60-unit complex or something like that, where, okay, now it makes sense. There's different tax strategies for passive and non-passive real estate investors and all that good stuff that my CPA and financial advisors are kind of guiding me on, right? But I will never get into real estate like I currently am, where I'm buying a house here in town and remodeling it and renting it out. Like, I'm done with that.
You're building it. You have a church too, yeah?
Yeah, and I have a church that I bought that I'm converting into apartments, and that's a super annoying project I'm trying to sell as well.
Yeah.
So.
But anyone out there who wants to buy a church that's going to apartments.
That's right. That's right. Buy it, move into it yourself.
Yeah.
Cash flow that puppy.
Because all the framing's done, yeah?
It's all framed out.
It's all framed out?
I'm gonna...
Do you have drywall up?
No. There needs to be electrical, plumbing, HVAC,
yeah.
all that stuff first. So
all the guts. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to, go watch another video. If you want to know more about gutter launch, we have 2 videos. We have an 1.5 hour long video, and we have about a 2-hour video. We also have an 18-minute video that really goes in depth into the program for gutter launch, and I will link these here. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you later.